Zoboomafoo. Zoboomafoo. Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to this week's episode of Zoboomafoo.
Today, we're looking at the Hemichordata, otherwise known as acorn worms. They've been around for roughly 530 million years. There are two major groups of Hemichordata, the Enteropneusta and Pterobranchia.
The Enteropneus live in intertidal zones such as the White Sea and Greenland south to New Zealand, and the Pterobranchs live in burrows in mud or fine sand in both shallow and deeper water. Let's take a look.
Enteropneus are bilaterally symmetrical and brilliantly colored. On the other hand, Pterobranchs are minute colonial tube-building forms and have hermaphroditic colonies, but the individuals themselves are either male, female, or immature. They don't move that much, but when they do, they move by peristaltic contractions of the proboscis, which means that they move by alternate contractions and relaxations of their proboscis. Look at these structures later so you can see what it looks like.
Hemichordates are deposit feeders, meaning they eat small organic particles off of the ocean floor, and are also filter feeders, meaning that they eat food particles that are floating in the water. Hemichordates develop as deuterostomes, meaning that they have two openings as an embryo. The first opening develops into the anus. The developed hemichordates can be divided into three parts: the proboscis, the collar, and the trunk. The proboscis allows the worm to stretch and contract, allowing movement. The collar contains nerve tissue, and the trunk is the longest part of the body that holds a majority of the organs. The Hemichordata do not have a central nervous system, meaning that there is no brain or spinal cord. Now, let's go find the Hemichordata expert.
So where do these worms live, you might ask? All the species are benthic, meaning that they live on the sea floor. Almost all of them live in burrows in the mud or sand, while others make their homes under rocks. Hemichordates start their lives as Tornaria larvae, meaning that they spend their first weeks floating around as part of plankton. Soon, they undergo a metamorphosis and develop their adult bodies. They then sink to the ocean floor, where they spend the rest of their lives as mostly stationary creatures that do not migrate.
They reproduce sexually by releasing eggs or sperm into the surrounding water.
An interesting fact about the Hemichordata is that the name is derived from the Greek hemi, meaning half, and chorda, meaning cord, because they were originally thought to be part of the chordates with a notochord.
We can look at these evolutionary traits by looking at the phylogenetic trees that we've created.
The outgroup of the genetic code 16S phylogenetic tree was Arthropoda. Chordata and Hemichordata are sister taxons, sharing a most recent common ancestor. This makes sense because of how similar these two taxons are. The 16S tree seems more accurate as it shows Chordata and Hemichordata as being more closely related. For our data matrix phylogenetic tree, we used 15 different characteristics to classify the taxons. The outgroup of this tree is Annelida, and the Hemichordata and Chordata are on the next closely related taxons. This makes sense as Annelida are also types of segmented worms.
You might be wondering, how did this group originate? Scientists think that the Hemichordates could have evolved from other echinoderms, which include starfish, sea urchins, or other chordates.
Since discovery that Hemichordata do not actually have a notochord, and thus are believed to be more closely related to echinoderms than to chordates. In the published phylogenetic tree, the authors chose Annelida as the outgroup, similar to our data matrix tree. It also shows Hemichordata and Echinodermata as sister taxons. This makes sense because both Echinodermata and Hemichordata do not have notochords, while the Chordata do.
And that's everything you need to know about the Hemichordata.
Tune in for next week's episode.
Zoboomafoo!